Welcome back to session 2 of the podcast guesting masterclass. I'm Jessica Rhodes, your host. I'm the founder and co-owner of Interview Connections, the world's first ever and leading done-for-you podcast booking agency. And since 2013, we have booked over 30,000 podcast interviews for more than 800 clients, and we have taught tens upon thousands of entrepreneurs through this podcast guesting masterclass over the last several years. Yesterday in session 1, I taught you how to lay a strong foundation for your podcast guesting strategy. And in today's session, we're going to talk about how to monetize your podcast appearances. So in other words, whatever goal that you set in session 1, when we talked about what goals you can achieve through being a guest on podcasts, today's session is going to give you the strategies and the tactics to actually accomplish those goals. Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, we have a bonus session. So you've got sessions 1, 2, and 3, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Replays are available until August 13th. So a week from today, if you're watching this live or watching this on the day of recording, the replays end on August 13th. But on Friday, August 9th at 5 p.m. Eastern time, I'm hosting a bonus session that is by application only or invite only. So go to interviewconnections.com/Friday if you would like to be at the bonus session. So the bonus session is all about how to repurpose the content that is created for you when you're a guest on podcasts, so you can create exponentially more visibility online with this thought leadership content. So the goal of sessions 1, 2, and 3 is really to give you the blueprint and get you clarity on, is podcast guesting the right strategy for me? How do I monetize it? And then for those of you who are ready to implement and really repurpose the content that is being created for you, the Friday at 5 bonus session is going to teach you how to do just that. So if you'd like more, interviewconnections.com/Friday to request an invite to that bonus session. Again, each session is recorded. We are sending out replays as soon as they get uploaded onto YouTube and put onto the replay page at interviewconnections.com/replay. You will have access until midnight on Tuesday, August 13th. So make sure that you catch up if you can't attend any of the sessions live or if you want to watch them a second time. And book a call if you are interested in working with Interview Connections. I am going to be sharing more about our program and how we work towards the end of this session. But for those of you who know that you want to be booked as a guest on podcasts and you want to partner with Interview Connections to make that happen and to do it successfully and effectively, go to interviewconnections.com/call. If you're watching the replay, we have the link in the description right below this video. Go to interviewconnections.com/call to schedule a free 20-minute consult with me so we can get your questions answered and make sure that we're a good fit. All right, we are going to dive into the topic today. So let's talk about how to monetize your podcast appearances. So I always like to start this session by providing some context on why podcast listeners and podcast hosts are so much easier to close as clients than leads that you get from other sources. Because there's a lot of different ways to generate leads in your business, but people that hear you as a guest on podcasts, be it the listeners or the hosts or people that see clips of you being interviewed on podcasts, are much easier prospective clients to sign up than leads from other sources. So why? Number one, you develop high trust with the audience and the host when you speak on podcasts. Listeners can tell pretty quickly when they hear you speak on a podcast and they hear you interviewed by a podcast host that they know, like, and trust, what level you're playing at. They can tell pretty quickly if they feel in alignment with your values and how you run your business, how you approach the topic that your business works in. They can feel your energy. They can listen to you speak and get that gut sense of, this person, this company is a vibrational match for me. They can hear the stories that you're sharing, the types of clients that you help, and get that immediate feeling and knowing, oh, they've helped this type of client. I have that type of business. It sounds like they could help me too. So podcast appearances give listeners and hosts this really low pressure opportunity to get to know you and learn if you are the right fit for them before ever entering a sales conversation, at which point their guard is going to be a little bit more up. Because as soon as someone's on a sales call with you, there is this inherent pressure of like, we're here to make a decision. But when they can listen to you on a podcast, they can go through that process of deciding if you're the right fit for them before you're selling to them. So it's a really powerful opportunity to sell without selling. You're also getting a tacit endorsement from the host of the show. When a podcast host brings you onto their podcast and features your story and your expertise to their audience, that audience knows inherently that that host supports you. They endorse you. They wouldn't feature you to their audience if they didn't trust you and believe that you had value to share. And you're also being edified by the podcast hosts. So if you don't have dozens or hundreds of testimonials and client case studies all over and people talking about you, you can go on podcasts, be interviewed by podcast hosts who are going to edify you and talk about how great you are to their audience. And that is content that is really powerful. People really they get that social proof about you. So when you're a guest on podcasts, you are having listeners hear a host that they trust edify you and tell them how great you are. So that content is super powerful, and it makes it much easier to close sales with people that hear that. It also gives you an opportunity to tell your story. In a saturated, commoditized market, your story is the one thing that will make you stand out from your competition. It is the one thing that you have that none of your competitors have in common. Your competitors might have similar prices, they might have similar programs, they might serve a similar audience, but they don't have your story. When you're a guest on a podcast, you're sharing your personal story. What got you into business? How did you grow your business? What are the pitfalls you experienced? What are the fears that you've overcome? What are the successes that you've had? What have you learned? When people hear that, they see you as a human that they can relate to. And they're like, you're the person I want to work with. Like, I trust you. I heard your story. Some of y'all have listened to the podcast interview that I did with my dad. My dad's last episode of his podcast, Dream Business Radio, he brought me on because I was booking guests for him in 2013. And he's like, you have to be the last episode. And so we shared my story. And, I've had a few of you tell me like, oh, I listened to your podcast with your dad. And my favorite part of session 1 was hearing your backstory with your dad. Like, that makes Interview Connections unique. This company, Interview Connections, really was founded out of a desire to give entrepreneurs an ability to reach their target market, to speak, to grow without leaving home. Because our ideal client and who we love serving is the person that values time with their family. They don't want to be on the road, traveling to different conferences every single month. They want to be speaking, they want to be growing, but they also want to be able to be home at night, be home on the weekends with their family. And that's why I love podcast appearances, is because it gives you this ability to reach thousands of people every single month without traveling. I've got 2 kids. My daughter will be 9 on Thursday. It's Lucy's birthday week. My son's 11. I'm in a season where I don't like traveling. There are great business events out there that could get me visibility, but I would much rather spend my time on podcasts where I know I'm going to reach a lot of people and share my story in an authentic way, in a really effective way, but I'm not getting on an airplane and spending days at a time, away from home. So that is why I kind of went on a little tangent there about the value of podcast guesting. But podcast appearances really give you that opportunity to have a deep conversation, share your story in a meaningful way that allows you to have some freedom with where you are. And also, there's never been a more important time to show your humanness in your marketing, because right now, artificial intelligence and bot marketing, there's a lot of it out there, and there's value in AI and bots. Like, it's allowing business owners to, scale and grow and achieve things in much smaller amounts of time. However, when you are posting written content, articles, social media posts, texts, things like that, a lot of people will assume that AI wrote it. They'll assume that a bot sent it. That's just where we're at right now. In the age of online business, most people are going to see something written and just assume that it was AI. They're not going to have that as much of an emotional connection with your content when it's written. But when they hear you as a guest on a podcast, when they join you on a video, like this, they know it's actually you because you're here. You're like, we're here together. You're hearing me speak. This was not pre-written by AI. And so when you speak on podcasts, you are giving the listeners, you're giving new audience members the ability to connect with you emotionally, hear your voice, hear your personality, hear your style in a way that they just can't get through written content. So many business owners right now are seeking that silver bullet. Like, what is the fastest and easiest strategy that's going to get me results right now? And in the process of trying to find that quick and easy fix, oftentimes what is sacrificed is human connection and relationships. So I have these conversations all the time with business owners who are evaluating, do I invest in podcast appearances? Do I invest in this or that? Do I do ads? Do I do, name any number of marketing strategies that are out there? Do I do social media? Like, what can I do that's going to get me the results the fastest? And while there are benefits to a lot of different strategies, what I hear often is like, what's going to work the fastest? And podcast appearances are the one strategy that you can leverage to invest in relationships. And relationships take time to nurture, they take time to grow, but they also are rock solid. When you have really solid business relationships, like we can all, if you've been in business for more than a couple of years, we can all think about those people who have referred so many clients to us. We can all think about those relationships, those people that have booked us on stages, that have just given us so much opportunity because it's such a solid relationship. And you've also done the same thing for them. Those relationships are formed through genuine connection, through a deep conversation of sharing value, receiving value. It's an equal give and take. And when you're a guest on a podcast, there is an equal give and take. You are giving value, you are receiving value. It is an equal exchange of value. And those podcast hosts that are in that exchange of value with you become friends, they become referral partners, they become clients, they become people that can connect you with opportunities. So investing in podcast appearances is the most effective way to grow your network. People will say, I want to be, speaking to people's client communities. I want to be speaking. I want opportunities to this and that. And you get opportunities through people knowing you and trusting you and having worked with you in the past. And when I say work with you, I don't just mean being your client, but like interviewed you on their podcast, heard you on their podcast, something like that. And so as I shared in session 1, hosts are often ideal clients or referral partners. So really take seriously every interview you do, as this is an opportunity to build a relationship that could introduce me to clients. It could introduce me to new opportunities. They could refer business to me. They could become my client. So every podcast interview you do is a very valuable networking and relationship building opportunity. So I want to share a couple of examples with you because I've also heard from some of y'all that I've been messaging with on LinkedIn that, hearing stories and examples of real business owners in different industries and how they've leveraged podcast guesting is super helpful to help you see what's possible. So I'm going to give you some examples. So Mark Ritter is a client of ours. He's been working with us since 2018. He re-ups. Some people ask, what happens after the first year? I hope you renew because this is a long-term strategy, and some of our most successful clients with the best case studies, they do this every year. They re-up with us every year, and it's just a line item on their marketing budget. They keep getting on podcasts. So Mark Ritter is one of those clients. He's the CEO of Member Business Financial Services and New Direction Lending. So he is an executive in a credit union company that offers business loans. So his target audience is entrepreneurs and real estate investors that need funding. Every time a podcast appearance of his gets published, his sales team has their phone ringing of people that call up and they're like, I need a loan for my business, for my real estate investing. And he has brokered $40 million in business loans from being a guest on podcasts. So that is pretty incredible. He said it's the cheapest advertising they've ever invested in. On the flip side, totally different type of business owner. So Laura Amun-Ra is an elite spiritual advisor for 7- and 8-figure female entrepreneurs. So very high-end work, very specific target market. She's closed over $180,000 in sales for her high-end coaching and spiritual advisor work from being a guest on podcasts. So these are people that have heard her as a guest, heard her call to action, reached out, had a call, became her client. So we talked about, one of your goals being to close high ticket clients. So Laura is a really good example of someone who's done that very effectively. Dina Patton is a sales and marketing coach. She works with really successful 8-figure companies. She also has a course for entrepreneurs and business owners. She's seeing a consistent $10,000 to $20,000 per month, reoccurring revenue, $10,000 to $20,000 per month from podcast appearances. This has totally transformed her business over the last several years. Her podcast appearances consistently deliver warm, qualified leads who buy and buy every single month. So those are just a few of examples of what is possible and how our clients are leveraging podcast appearances to meet their goals. Leads that you generate from podcasts will also typically close with fewer touch points because they've already spent 30 to 45 minutes with you. So we've likely all heard that business truism that leads need 16 touch points at a minimum before they buy. And that's why you need to do follow-ups, you need to send emails, you need to send texts, you need to be on social media, you need to run ads. You need to be touching people multiple different ways and times to get them to the point of buying. But that's not necessarily true when somebody hears you on a podcast, because typically those 16 touch points are 2 seconds, see your ad, see your post, glance at your email for 2 minutes. It's all of these little touch points that over time add up to a bit of time that they've spent with you. But when somebody hears you as a guest on a podcast, that's 20 touch points in one 30-minute block. So they're hearing your story, they're getting value, they're hearing you talk with a podcast host, they're hearing your call to action, they're getting tips, they're getting all of it in one podcast appearance. So you can close clients who heard you on a podcast much faster and easier than somebody who sees an ad but doesn't quite trust you yet or isn't quite nurtured enough yet. And this next tip, write this down. I literally wrote, write this down because this is so important. So a great way to leverage your podcast appearances to close more sales in your business is to include them in your proposals with potential clients before you have a sales call. So I'm going to explain how this works. I'll give you an example. So I do this. If you've booked a consultation call with me, you will notice that I share a podcast appearance with you in the confirmation email. Say, hey, would love for you to listen to this before our call. It does allow you to come to the call knowing me and my story a little bit better, hearing me talk with the host about this topic. That is intentional. It's something I would recommend that you do as well. Our client, Mike Maynard, is the managing director and CEO of the Napier Group, which is a $7 million PR and marketing company for B2B tech companies. So that is his business. He's also been working with us for many years to be booked on podcasts as a guest. And he includes podcast appearances that he has done on industry podcasts in his proposals. And so his clients, he has multiple 6-figure contracts. He's working with B2B tech. So these are not one sales call leads to a sale. He has very long sales cycles, very large contracts. There's usually multiple other agencies that are submitting proposals to win these clients. And one thing that Mike does is he will include a podcast appearance that he's done in the proposal. What that does is it makes his company look unique. It makes him stand apart. It allows that prospective client, that tech company, to see Mike and his company as an industry leader, as an authority figure, because they're out speaking on podcasts relevant to the work that they would be doing. So use your podcast appearances with your prospective clients to help close sales more effectively. And I will be sharing this tip and a lot more about how to use your podcast to close more sales and to expand your visibility online, again, in the Friday bonus session. So interviewconnections.com/Friday if you want more actionable tips like this. And a quick reminder of what I shared in session 1. I know we're talking all about monetizing and seeing an ROI and getting sales and closing leads. You still need to have a mindset of service. You still need to have at the forefront of your mind, how do I serve here? I am here to give value. if you are only thinking about how you're going to get clients through this, if you're only thinking about monetizing and getting something from it, you are going to struggle. It is a balance. We want you to get value from this, and we also want to make sure you're giving value in return for the value that you're receiving. So remember that mindset of service. It's really, really important. All right, now let's dive into some more monetization strategies. So I'm going to start here with how to monetize the host relationship, because it's often the most overlooked and it is a huge opportunity for those who are smart enough to leverage it. So a lot of us, you get into podcasting and you're interested in being a guest on podcasts for the visibility. I'm going to get on these shows and thousands of people are going to hear me. How big are the audiences? Like, it's a glitzy opportunity. But now that we're here and we're talking in an intimate setting about monetization, like, come close. It's actually the host that is your best opportunity for a sale. The host that is interviewing you is the most likely person who can become a client or a referral partner most of the time. And our case studies show it time and time again. Our clients were like, Jessica, you told me that the host might become a client. I wasn't sure if I believed you, but the host just became a client. Like, it happens all the time. So just believe me now, because it's going to be much easier to manifest that result when you just have the belief from the beginning. So let's talk about how to do this. So number one, leverage your relationships with the hosts. Number one way you can do that is by inviting the host to become an affiliate or a referral partner for your program, product, or service. So if you already have an affiliate or a referral program in place, it's really simple to just say to the host, hey, if you'd like to become a referral partner, I can get you that information. We can get a special link. You can give the host affiliate link as your call to action. And this is a great opportunity. It's a win-win because the host is now monetizing your podcast appearance. The more people who hear your interview on their show and become your client, that's good for them. Like, they're going to make commission from that. So interview connections, like I'm a client of my own business. The team books me on at least 3 shows every single month. And I've been on over 20 podcasts so far this year. And one thing, and I've done hundreds of interviews in my career over the last 11 years, but one thing that I'm noticing in 2024 more than ever before is that every podcast host that's interviewing me communicates to me how much they value their relationships with the guests of the show. Like, they're actually doing their podcast for the networking and the relationships with the guests that they are interviewing. So they're actively and really interested in opportunities to partner with the guest, to have a JV relationship, have a referral partnership, do something more than just the interview. One of our clients, Carlene Savage, she's going to be at session 3 tomorrow. She keeps emailing me. She's like, Jessica, another podcast host invited me back for a repeat appearance. Like, multiple podcast hosts have said, I want you to come back. I want you to come back. I want you to do another interview on my show. So she's going to be talking about how she's leveraging podcast host relationships to just get even more visibility to their audiences. But really focus on your relationship with the host. Don't see that host as just access to their audience. See them as the audience, and then their listeners are icing on the cake. That's bonus. But the host is the person you really want to focus your attention on. And you can collaborate with hosts in many different ways. Like I said, you can invite them to become a referral partner, an affiliate partner. You could do joint Instagram or Facebook live streams together. Summit and speaking opportunities. So I was interviewed on Samantha Riley's podcast, Influenced by Design. And one of the things that we talked about and that she said in the interview was that podcast hosts tend to be very extroverted. They tend to be well connected with other visibility opportunities like summits and conferences. And so if you want to be speaking more and you want opportunities and access to more stages, be it virtual or in person, podcast hosts are really good people to have in your Rolodex and to have relationships with. So for example, one of our clients, Timothy Wingate Jr., is the founder and president of GNF Business and Financial Consulting. So this is a company that serves the construction industry. And one of the interviews that we booked for Timothy was on a podcast in the construction industry. And the host got so much value from his interview that he hired Timothy as a speaker for his conference. Like all expenses paid him to speak, flew him and his wife out to the conference. At that conference, Timothy was bombarded by the audience members. After his talk, he got so many leads, so many clients. I think he had to raise his prices like 500% or something bonkers like that because his demand went through the roof. So we raised his prices. That didn't keep him away. The demand continued. The conference organizer and podcast host invited him back, hired him again to come speak at the next conference. So again, this is a host who has a conference, has an in-person conference, and interviewed Timothy and then invited him to speak. Like, this was just the most spectacular success story we've heard in a long time. It's one of my favorites, and it just shows you the value and the importance of providing value and really focusing on that host relationship. One more idea for you is private trainings for client communities. So one of the podcasts that I was a guest on this year was with a host who has a very similar target market. Like his clients are very similar to the type of clients that we serve at Interview Connections, but we do totally different things. Like he's helping people with their funnels. So we're helping our clients get visibility and create the right call to action. And then he's helping them with the funnel and closing clients after they convert from a podcast appearance. So he's going to come in and do a private training for Interview Connections clients. And then he'll likely bring me in to do a private training for his clients. So we did the interview, it went well. And then we're like, what else can we do together? So that's what happens when you're a guest on podcasts. You have these conversations with other business owners who have your target market, but do different things. And you say, what more can we do together? We already talked a little bit about the host becoming your client. So a really good strategy, as I mentioned in session 1, is that get booked on shows where the host of the show fits the description of your ideal client. So knowing your target audience, knowing who your ideal client is, and then being a guest on podcasts that they're hosting. So Nikki Nash she's a 7-figure entrepreneur. She's a best-selling author. She's the host of the Market Your Genius podcast. She interviewed Margie, who's our co-owner and CEO, on her podcast many years ago. And then when she was ready to launch her book, she's like, I got to work with Interview Connections. Like I interviewed their co-owner on the podcast. So obviously I'm going to work with them. Like I have a connection with them. I'm not going to go shopping around when I've already interviewed the owner of this company who has a service that I need. So when you're interviewed on podcasts by hosts who are your ideal clients, when they need your offering, they're going to go to you. They're not going to shop around to people that they've never had a conversation with. Christina Woods is an empowerment coach. I've mentioned her a couple times. She's a clinical hypnotherapist, and she's had multiple podcast hosts become her clients. So she offers hypnotherapy sessions. She has empowerment coaching packages. And so when podcast hosts interview her and they're learning all about hypnotherapy and how it can help them rewire subconscious beliefs and heal from trauma, if they're now bought into hypnotherapy, they trust Christina. Like she is their access point to this methodology. So of course they're going to choose her. What are they going to interview her and then go Google for a hypnotherapist they have no relationship with? No. So they're going to hire her. And so multiple podcast hosts in the green room will say, Christina, I want to work with you. I really want to do a session now because I was so blown away by what you shared in the podcast. She's also been on podcasts where the host says, I want my family member to work with you. I'm going to make an introduction. So it's a really good networking strategy. And it's super good if you have some type of healing modality. If you're working with people in a very intimate way, get booked on podcasts because they're going to choose the person that they have trust with and they have a relationship with, not just shopping around through websites, but like hearing your story, hearing your expertise, hearing you have a conversation on a podcast. So I want to give you some tips on how to attract that host to want to work with you, because there is strategy here. You want to give value, you want to be on the right shows, but there are some levers you can pull to increase the likelihood that these hosts do say, how do I work with you? I have somebody that I want to introduce you to. So in the green room chat, so in that time that you're talking to the host before they hit record, so before the interview is happening, we call that the green room chat, like you're in a real green room backstage at an event. Again, in the green room chat, ask the host how you can make them look good. Ask them questions about them and their business. So in the green room chat after the interview recording, check in with them, ask them, like, tell me a little bit more about your business. I was a guest on a podcast just last week, and we're chit-chatting in the green room after the episode. And they do very similar things. We were clearly vibing and like really shared a lot of perspectives on marketing. And I'm like, just tell me more about your business. What services do you guys offer? Who is your ideal client? I always like to have other services and companies in my back pocket. So if my clients are looking for a recommendation, I can make a referral. So take an interest in the host, take an interest in them and what they do. And that will increase the likelihood that they are going to want to refer to you, because when you show the host that you are there to serve them as well, and you're interested in providing value to them, that is, again, an equal give and take. That is an equal value exchange, rather than you just showing up saying like, okay, like, how's this going to go? Are you going to make me look good? Like, ask the host how you can make them look good. Tailor your answers in the interview to them and their business. So when you are in the interview, when they ask you a question and you're sharing a story, make that story as relevant to the host and their business and life as possible. Because when they see themselves in your story, they will start asking questions that are sort of, I call them the asking for a friend questions. When you're like, oh, they're actually personally very interested in this answer. It's not just a question from my one sheet, but they're like, oh, so for example, tell me a little bit more about this, and what about this? So when you can pick up on the fact that the host is now really interested in the content, they're starting to think about how you could actually help them. So be really intentional and strategic with your answers, take an interest in them, and that is going to, again, increase the likelihood that they are going to ask, how can I work with you? What does it look like to work with you? Tell me about your pricing. Tell me about your programs. And then again, focus on your energy and your mindset. See the potential in every show, large, medium, small. You never know who is listening. And when you focus on your energy and your mindset, it makes it much more likely that that host and people in their audience are going to want to work with you. All right, so now let's talk about the call to action. So at the end of the podcast interview, after you've had the interview, the host is wrapping it up. They're going to invite you to share a call to action. They're going to invite you to share where their listeners can connect with you online. So this is like a lever that you're pulling to invite their audience into your world, into your ecosystem. It's not the time to sell, right? So this is not a time to start pitching your paid services. It's too early on in the relationship for that. If somebody in the audience is a yes, they want to work with you right away, trust me, they're going to go to your website and book a sales call. But your invitation, your call to action should not be a sales pitch. It should be a free gift. It should be an opportunity for the audience to get more value from you for free. So your call to action should be free. It should be one thing, so not a menu of multiple options. People will be too confused. They will not remember all the menu of options that you give them. It should be valuable, and it should be the next intentional stop on somebody's journey to working with you. So think about the journey that people take right now from when they hear about you to when they actually become your client. What are the steps that they're taking? Likely one of those steps is the ideal call to action that you could give on a podcast. So some examples of simple calls to action that work really well. Number one, a consultation call. If you're offering a high ticket service, whether you're a financial advisor, whether you're a coach or a consultant, inviting people to book a consultation call is a really great call to action. Our client, Mark Willis, is a certified financial planner. He's closed dozens upon dozens of clients from his podcast appearances, and he simply invites listeners to his website and says, you'll get a free copy of my book, book a consultation call with my team. Really, really simple. It works. It gets the listeners right into his funnel in a very valuable way. You could offer your book or a free couple of chapters of your book, your Facebook group or an online community, a way for people to stay connected with you. So if you're offering, free challenges or masterclasses, like I will often on a podcast say, the best next step is to come to our free masterclass. Our podcast guesting masterclass is totally free. It's a 3-part workshop. So if you liked what you heard in this interview, go to interviewconnections.com/live masterclass to register. So that's a great call to action as well. Or a lead magnet. So a quiz or a checklist, a free report, some type of lead magnet or gift will also convert a lot of listeners onto your email list, at which point you can nurture them into booking a call or becoming a client. So let's do a little recap. So you now, at this point in the masterclass, you know that you need to have clear goals for podcast guesting. You know that you need to be clear on your target audience. So you need to have clarity on who you need to speak to in order to reach your goals and determine what types of podcasts would be the right fit for you. And you need to have clarity on your strategies for monetizing, which now you know to invest in the host relationship, you know to focus on your relationship with the host so they become a referral partner or a client, you know to give an effective call to action. And you don't want to spend hours and hours researching shows. You don't want to do all of the pitching and all of the follow-up work that it takes to secure a booking. And you don't want to waste time not seeing results. And you don't want to do this alone without the coaching and support from a team who has been doing this for over a decade. So now you have a choice. You can stay where you are, or you can step into the spotlight and grow your business, establish and claim your thought leadership, and bring it to the next level with the power of podcast appearances. So for those of you who are ready to transform your business with the power of global visibility that you get from appearing on podcasts, then book a consultation call right now at interviewconnections.com/call. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Interview Connections. I'm going to give you all of the details of our program, the price, the bonus. So stay tuned. I'm going to go over all those details for you right now. So Interview Connections was the first ever podcast booking agency in the world when I founded it in 2013. And we have blazed the trail for countless entrepreneurs around the world who leverage podcast appearances to reach new audiences, claim their authority online, and create endless thought leadership content, all from home. Our team of booking agents has secured over 30,000 interviews, which have resulted in millions of dollars in sales for more than 800 clients that we've had the honor of representing. We are known as a premier podcast booking agency because we specialize in supporting established business owners. Most of our clients, while this is not a strict criteria, most of our clients are typically at the 6, 7, or 8-figure revenue mark, and they are ready to invest in their brand awareness and grow their businesses with the targeted visibility that podcast appearances provide. We are not here to sell you a course so that you can go add hours and hours to your calendar pitching and booking yourself on podcasts. We are here to take the work of getting booked off your plate and give you the support you need to monetize your podcast appearances so that you reach your goals this year through podcast guesting. So our Amplified Authority program has been designed to perfectly set you up for success as a podcast guest. It includes guaranteed bookings on 30 targeted podcasts that align with your personal goals and your target audience. So in our onboarding process, we will create a success blueprint that outlines your unique criteria. Who's your target audience? What are the types of shows you should be a guest on? What is your call to action? So we'll hand select podcasts that fit your criteria based off of the information you provide with us. We are going to professionally design a podcast one sheet for you, and we're going to put together a media kit. This is going to get you booked on the best podcast for you. It's going to make you stand out to podcast hosts, It's also going to make the podcast host love you because you will be giving them everything that they need to be ready for an interview with you. So that media kit is going to give them a short version of your bio that they could use as an introduction. It's going to give them a long version of your bio that they could get to know you. It's going to have your one sheet. It's going to have your headshots. So we're going to put that all together for you. You're also going to get 2 intentionally placed interview audits at 2 crucial points in your first year with us. So what that means is that we will listen to 2 of your podcast appearances and give you personalized feedback and coaching on what we hear that is really great, keep doing it, and what we're hearing that you could tweak to improve your effectiveness as a guest expert on podcasts. There is an art and a skill to being a guest, right? You're in a conversation with the host. There's a dance with the host of when you answer a question, when you respond back to what the host is saying. So we're going to listen and coach you to make sure that you're being as effective as possible in those interviews. I host quarterly networking calls for our clients. So once a quarter, you have an opportunity to network and get to know other entrepreneurs that we're representing at Interview Connections. And we also have weekly group coaching calls and workshops where we're always teaching you the main pillars of podcast appearances. So we are done for you. And also we're here to continue teaching you because we value excellence. I continue to listen back to my own content. I listened back to session 1 of the Masterclass last night because I don't just phone it in and say, it was great, I've done this a million times. Like I listen back, I'm like, okay, what did I say that really hit the nail on the head? Like, what do I want to keep in? What do I want to take away? And so we bring that to our clients. Like we're going to listen back to your appearances. We're going to coach you on how you can give a call to action that's super effective. We're going to help you learn different ways that you can repurpose your content. So when you work with Interview Connections, you're partnering with an agency that operates at a very high level. We value excellence and we want you to see the most results possible. Our program, as you can imagine, is not for everyone, right? So this is not for everyone, but it is perfect for you if you are running a company, you have your own business, and you're at the 6, 7, or 8 figure revenue mark. Again, that is not a deal breaker criteria. I know some folks are like, I'm not 6 figures, that I can't work with you. I'm never going to ask for your P&L, but this is a long-term investment in your brand awareness. And so typically if you're not at or around the 6-figure mark, it may not be the right investment for you, but book a call if you're not sure and we can totally talk about it. So if that sounds like you, book a call. If you feel like the best kept secret, like you have a great business, you've grown by word of mouth and referral, like you've got a solid business, but you feel like the best kept secret, like not enough people know about you and your company, and you need that visibility in a way that people can really hear your story and hear about what makes you unique. Your best content flows when you're responding. So our program is perfect for you if that really resonates. Like, you know that if I just say, hey, go open up a Google Doc and write me an article, you're like, what should I write about? Or if I say, go make a bunch of videos for your marketing, you're like, what should I talk about on the videos? Like if you know that you kind of hit a writer's block and you're not really sure what type of content to create, but if I say, hey, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about your area of expertise, you're like, let's go. Like I can do that. So if your best content flows when you're responding to questions, this is perfect for you. This is the strategy you should be prioritizing in your business over the next year. If you have an amazing business, but you've plateaued, like you've got a great business, but your revenue's kind of been steady the last couple of years and you want to get to that next level, you need more visibility. You need more thought leadership content. You need more relationships with influential entrepreneurs in your industry. That's what podcast appearances are going to bring to you. And you know that speaking to new audiences of ideal clients and networking with other influential entrepreneurs is the key to consistent growth in any economic climate. So if you agree with this statement that when I speak to my target market, people want to work with me. If that is you, this is a strategy you should be investing in. If you are kind of struggling to make ends meet, like your revenue's really, really low, you don't have financial means to make a long-term investment, our program is probably, not the right fit for you. So what's the investment? What does this amazing program cost? So The investment for this very comprehensive program, normally outside of this masterclass, is 10. You could do a payment plan. So we have a 10 monthly payment plan, which is $18.50 per month. So you could do 10 monthly payments of $18.50 normally, or $17,000 paid in full. If you sign up with us during this masterclass, which ends on August 13th. So when you make your investment by Tuesday the 13th, the investment is $16,000 if you pay in full. Or you can do the payment plan and we bring that down to 10 payments of $17.50 per month. So $16,000 paid in full or $17.50 per month, 10 monthly payments. Everyone who signs up by August 13th will get our podcast starter pack. So I'm going to buy you a microphone stand, and a ring light. So you'll have everything you need. You don't need to go figure out what microphone to buy. Everyone who signs up by the 13th will get that as a gift. I will send that to you. And then we have some very special bonus gifts and incentives for those who make your investment in full. So if you're one of the first 5 people to choose that $16,000 paid in full option by the 13th, we will write the copy for your one sheet for you. So your bio, your topics, and your questions, we will write that for you. The bio, it's really important to write that in a strategic way because we want to make sure that the hosts and the listeners listening of you, how they're hearing your bio is going to motivate them to keep reading and want to listen to the episode. So if you pay in full, we'll do that for you. If you do the payment plan, we'll work with you. We have group coaching calls about one sheet copy. We have a template to walk you through it. So you will be supported either way. But if you are somebody that wants a full done for you concierge level service, be one of the first 5 to pay in full. You'll save, you'll get the best price, plus we'll do it for you. I will also, for the first 5 people to pay in full, I'm personally going to listen to one of your podcast appearances and give you coaching and feedback. So that is a really great opportunity. People often ask me like, hey, can you listen to my podcast and give me feedback? This is something that I only offer at special times, like during our masterclass for those who are all in, who choose the pay in full option and are taking fast action. So we are here to serve you, and I want to really incentivize you to go all in, choose that pay in full option, be one of the first 5 people so that I can listen to your podcast appearance, give you that coaching and feedback, and help you have an incredible first year of being a guest on podcasts. So the next step is to book a consultation call. So interviewconnections.com/call, book a call. If it looks like we're a good fit, I'm going to send you a little confirmation email. We're going to get on Zoom. We're going to get your questions answered. If you apply for a call and I look over your information and I don't think that we could help you, I will let you know and cancel the call. Please don't take personal offense to it, but I'm only going to sign up clients who I know that we can serve. So if it doesn't look like we can serve you, I'm going to let you know out of respect for your time and mine. But if everything I've shared with you is a yes, you're like, yes, like I know podcast appearances are it. I've got to get out there and I want your help in making sure I do this the right way. I don't want to waste time not seeing results. Book a call. I would love to talk with you, get your questions answered, make sure this is a good fit. And again, our discounts, our bonus gifts expire Tuesday, August 13th. We do have some really special incentives that I'll share privately on the call for paying in full. So I've got some secrets there. So if you are interested in that pay in full option and you're like, ooh, what else do you have to offer? Book a consultation call. We'll talk privately about that. I want to make sure that this is a good fit and that everything's in alignment. So book a call at interviewconnections.com/call. We'll have an open conversation about your business. Make sure that this is the right investment for you. It is a commitment. You'd be working with us for about a year, if not more. Of course, we want you to re-up and continue working with us, but it's really important that we're a good fit. So book a consultation call so we could talk that through. And then if you want to come to the Friday bonus session, again, interviewconnections.com/Friday to apply for that session. All right. Thank you all so much for being here for session 2. Come back for session 3 tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time for the panel and hearing some more stories of our clients who are leveraging podcast appearances in their business. And I can't wait to talk to you. Bye.